Welcome to the Sleep Sense Show. As always, brought to you by the Sleep Sense program, where podcast listeners can get a free customized sleep plan by going to www.sleepsense.net/listen.
Hi, I'm Dana. Welcome to our show. One of my main goals has always been to do my best as a parent with the end results always in sight. And what I mean by that is that I believe that it's our role as parents to do the best we can to ensure that our children become well-functioning adults, right? That's everything that I do is with that in mind, about helping my kids learn the things and have the experiences that they need and the consequences that they need and all of the things that equip us for beginning life as a young adult. I think a lot of parents lose sight of that end goal, and we get so caught up in the day-to-day of everything, especially when our kids are little. It's so hard to even imagine them, being old enough to venture out on their own, that we can make some mistakes in those early years, unintentionally, obviously, but we can definitely make some mistakes that are unhelpful, really, and don't prepare our children in adequate ways so that they can function well when they leave home. You just have to actually talk to any college administrator and you will get an earful about how parents are doing their children disservice by a few of the things that I'm going to talk about here today. They've even had to basically hire what they call parental bouncers who go around at the end of each day and kick parents out of dorms because parents are sleeping on the couch and hovering about in their children's dorm room. And that's really actually not doing the child, well, we can't even really call them a child anymore, the young adult, any favors having their parents sort of hovering so nearby. So what am I talking about here then today when I'm talking about unhelpful parenting behaviors? And I want you to just keep an eye on these things or at least, have a good look once in a while at what you're doing and see if maybe you could tweak some of it. The number one, or actually none of these are worse or better than the others, but the first one is over-coddling. And I obviously do not mean that we shouldn't be giving our children lots of love and attention. That's not at all what I mean by over-coddling. Over-coddling refers to just doing everything for your child, right? Like cleaning their room and doing their laundry and helping them with their homework to the point of actually just doing it for them, keeping their schedule for them, reminding them constantly of everything they need to do. And some of that is important. We have to guide our children in the direction of becoming organized and implementing tools to get our chores done and our homework done. They need some guidance around that. It's very difficult to ask a 10-year-old to organize his backpack in such a way that it functions well and everything's getting done on time. That's why schools are so important for helping our children learn how to organize their lives. But if we go too far with that and we end up doing everything for them, then they don't learn how, right? Organization is a skill. And that's an important life skill when they get into college or even go into the workforce. You need to be able to manage your time and organize your tasks and get your life organized even, right? As far as groceries and laundry and housekeeping and all of that stuff, it might seem mundane, but it certainly is an important piece of being a well-functioning adult. So one of the things that I would encourage you to do is look for opportunities to encourage and or insist that your child have some role in the family, some role in the household. One of the things I tell my children often is that we are all a part of this household and we all have tasks and chores that we need to do to keep everything running well. I give them an allowance every week, but that's not because of the chores they do. I give them an allowance every week because I want them to learn how to manage money. But doing chores is just a part of being a member of the family. And so obviously we want them to be age appropriate, but make sure that you've got some chores lined up in your week that your child can do. I mean, very young children can empty the dishwasher, wipe off the table or counters. There's definitely ways to get your children involved in doing some of the tasks that are necessary when you run a home. I, about 2 years ago, bought all of my children their own laundry basket, taught them how to run the washer and the dryer, and said, okay, your laundry is your responsibility from this day forward. And not only did it change my life for the better, I don't have a mountain of laundry in my laundry room anymore, but it also helped them organize themselves to the point where I better do some laundry or I'm going to have no clothes for tomorrow. So thinking through to the next day, right, and sort of planning accordingly has been a huge help for them organizationally. The second thing that parents do that can become a problem for your child is being overly cautious or even discouraging around your child trying new things. And I get it. You might be a little worried. Sometimes people on the baseball field get hit with a ball, or sometimes learning to snowboard can be a little on the dangerous side. So there's inherent dangers in everything your child's going to try. But if you're so overly anxious or cautious, or even to the point of discouraging them from trying new things, that will have long-term impact. And where it will show up down the road is that your child will become so cautious that they won't take any risks, they won't challenge themselves in meaningful ways. And all of these things, taking little steps out of your comfort zone, is so important, because what it does is it builds confidence, right? Just bombarding your children with praise about how brilliant they are, smart they are, pretty they are, on and on and on, that doesn't actually build confidence at all. The only way to do that is for the child themselves to take on little challenges, to move out of their comfort zone a little bit here and there. And then their confidence with that grows, and then they can take another step and another step and another step out of their comfort zone. And with you sort of holding them back, it's not going to help them grow their confidence, and that's going to have a long-term impact. So bite your tongue or do whatever you have to sort of stifle your own anxiety around it, and know that, obviously you talk about safety precautions, but allowing your children to push a little bit out and try new things and encourage them to do that, it is really going to pay off in the long run. The third thing is discouraging friendships. I've got my middle son right now. He is 13. He's at that age where that's where they become pretty impressionable, don't they? Especially with their peer group. And there's a little person in his classroom, I won't name names, but this little person has some behavioral issues, in my opinion. Really just not the kind of behaviors I like to see in my own children, obviously. And there's a friendship occurring there between my son and this little person. And it's tempting for me to butt in, right? And discourage him from being friends with that person. And I have to bite my tongue, and I have to put some trust in my own son at this point. Because if I discourage any kind of friendships, I'm not actually teaching my child how to navigate different personality types. If I'm always pre-screening every child that comes into my child's life, then I'm basically saying to my child, I don't trust you. Right? You can't make good decisions. So I'm going to pre-screen every relationship you have and make sure that they meet all of my criterias. They won't actually develop their own criterias. And with my older son, the proof's in the pudding here, people. I do know what I'm talking about. I have a 16-year-old son as well. And I've seen over the years that he does make good choices when it comes to friendships. And in his younger years, were there friends that I was like, oh, I don't know about that kid. He doesn't really behave the way that I would like my children to behave. And sure, he had those friendships, but by having a friend who maybe doesn't behave the same way or behaves in inappropriate ways, my son screened them himself eventually, right? And kind of understood that, you know what, these are the behaviors that I like in my friends. These are the characteristics that I like in my own friends. And now he has surrounded himself with really great kids, right? And he did that himself. I didn't have to do any kind of screening. I mean, I've obviously raised him to have good behavior for his own self, but he looks now for that in others. And that's really important because we want them to, go out into life where they're going to make their own choices and relationships and pick people that have the same qualities or values or, bring value to their friendship instead of the opposite. The fourth thing that parents do in a very well-meaning way is overpraising their child. And, this started showing up about kind of right when I got into the teaching profession. And that would be, now that is a lot of years ago. I would say we're talking about a good 18 years or so ago when I started my teaching jobs. And there was this whole movement of like building kids' self-esteem. And one of the ways in which everyone thought a great way to do that would be to start praising them for every little thing that they do. And we stopped, even in competitive sports, we stopped giving prizes to first place, and we started giving everyone trophies and participation trophies and, winner number one and winner number two, and being so overly cautious that it actually now, all these years later, we're realizing, oops, right? We actually shouldn't have been doing that, because all it did was create these sort of entitled young adults or these entitled teens who are like, hey, how come you're not applauding me because I put my backpack away? Or how come you're not giving me money because I got an A on the test? And what it does is it actually decreases self-esteem in a lot of ways, because then they don't trust in themselves, and they're always looking for constant reassurance from others to sort of validate their awesomeness or their goodness. And so we really want to be careful with the praise that we give. I love praise. I give it to my children when I deem it appropriate. I think it's an important piece of parenting to highlight the ways in which our children are doing well. But that doesn't mean, she draws a stick figure in 2 seconds and then I'm going to praise her for what a fabulous job that is. That's not a fabulous job, right? I just watched you take exactly 2 seconds to scribble down a stick man. That doesn't deserve any kind of praise. If I see them taking time and putting care and attention into things, then absolutely. If I see them taking risks or pushing themselves creatively or pushing themselves intellectually, that absolutely deserves praise. If they've been practicing something repetitively until they master it, that deserves praise. So just be careful that you're not saying good girl, good boy over every little thing that they do, because that will come back. They'll need your constant reassurance about every little thing that they do. And the last thing I want to talk about today is just the idea of modeling. Now, children watch everything, right? They learn through you. You can say till you're blue in the face, don't yell or don't hit or whatever it is that your rules are. But if they see you doing those things, the one just cancels out the other. They're watching you. They're going to do what you do. So you have to always be keeping a close eye on that, if you say don't yell, but yet you're yelling it, or the next minute you turn around and yell at your partner, well, then yelling's okay. You just proved that it was because you're doing it yourself. And we're not perfect people, and we all have a wide range of emotions throughout a day. And that is okay too, right? We don't want to tiptoe around in sing-songy voices all day in front of our children, because that's not going to teach them how to handle those negative feelings. What do you do with yourself when you feel angry at someone? What do you do with yourself when you want to, honk the horn and shake your fist in a road rage situation? Or what do you do when you broke a plate, or all these things that occur in a day that aren't always the good parts? How do you handle it, and how do you navigate through those emotions? You are the teacher here, so you need to make sure that you're modeling the behaviors you want to see show up and be talking it through. And if you make a mistake and yell your head off at somebody, then come back and talk about it and go, you know what, I really lost my cool in that situation. That's not the way I want to handle it. Here's how I might do it better next time. I'm going to work towards this. But we don't need to create this error that we're perfect people, because we're not. We make mistakes, and our kids actually, they like to see us make mistakes. It reminds them that our parents are human too, and they're not perfect people. And when they make mistakes, they own up to it, and they plan better for the next time. So those are sort of my top 5. If you see any of them showing up in your own life, then you know what? We're just all doing our best here, and you catch it and you move on and you move through it and you do better next time. One of my favorite quotes is, there is no way to be a perfect mother or a perfect parent, but a million ways to be a good one. And every day we have a fresh, brand new opportunity to do just exactly that. Thanks so much for watching or listening today. As always, please sleep well.
Thanks so much for listening. For more great tips on helping your child sleep through the night, remember to subscribe, rate, and review the show on iTunes or Stitcher, and never miss an episode.